Hello, my name is Sanjana and I'm a designer at Tara Books. Today we're going to be talking about the color book. It's our first session in our new series called the Traveling Titles, which we just started. It's the first session today and I'm really excited to get this going. Maybe we'll just wait for a bit. This till then, I'll just show you the book. Maybe this is the color book, and it's one of the first books I read when I came to Tara, and it was right after college. So, as a design student, I thought I sort of knew everything about color because I had done so many courses on color in school. I sort of studied color, but reading this book made me realize that there was so much more to it because it's such a new take on color, and that's why I'm really excited that I'm able to talk about this book today. These are sort of unprecedented times that we're in right now, but we're all finding new ways of connecting to each other. I think it's really powerful that ideas and stories can move across the globe, even if we can't travel and even if we can't go to different places and see different things. At Tara, over the last 25 years, we've been fortunate to work with publishers across the globe, and it's fascinating to see what new meaning our books take on in different contexts. For example, our book To Market, the story sort of unfolds in a local Indian bazaar. But while the setting may not be familiar to kids across the globe, readers across the world can engage with it. And the great thing about books is that it allows us to experience the unfamiliar and expand our scope of imagination. We've had a long-standing relationship with the Inko Centre, which is the Indo-Korean Center in Chennai, and we've hosted exhibitions and talks over there over the years. So this time, in collaboration with the Inko Center, we're revisiting books that have made it into the Korean language, Tara books that have made it into the Korean language. Currently, 12 of our titles are available in Korean, and this series of talks and interactions looks at four popular titles, one every month. So this month's title is The Color Book, and this will be going on from July to October. The color book is by Sophie Benini, an Italian French writer and artist. So, right now, we're going to hear from Sophie herself. She'll be talking about the book.
Hello, I'm very happy to be here in Rome with you to talk about the color book. In this book, I'm talking about my experience with colors. So I start thinking about my childhood, the moment of when I discover yellow or black. And then I thought about the game, the universal game that is magic potion, because when you do a magic potion, you put some pieces of leaves or things that put power on your potion. And I thought, well, doing a color is like putting power in a potion. So to understand which power have a color, I decided to create characters for each colors, like a dragon for the red or a bird of paradise for the yellow. And by describing these characters, I show to the kids how a red can change a color. So the dragon is full of passion, and if you put a drop of dragon in a yellow, it becomes a warm orange. And then, as in all my books, I am asking in the book to do a treasure hunt, to find all objects with the same color that you can put together to create shades. For example, the orange illustration. After doing that, I'm reflecting on the fact that when you look at the color, it's like looking at the face of someone you love. So you can say, oh, today he's angry, or he's happy, or why he has this expression. So when you look at a color, you can say that it's a smiling color or a sad color, and you can imagine how it's made of. So colors have feelings and can create feelings, atmosphere. So in this book you can see how to do colors, of course, and to experiment colors. And you can do even you can collect colors you want and do a book of colors. And so here is my studio that you can see. In this place I collect colors and I create landscapes with objects and colors that are very inspiring for me in my project. So I hope that this book could inspire you too. Thank you.
years, and it's often tied to our memories and experiences. It sort of shapes the way we perceive colors and how we interact with them. It can affect our moods and our feelings. So, this is actually from the book itself. Sophie says, "Pink makes me remember the candies I bought after school. They turned my tongue pink. When I see something pink, it brings back the sweet taste of that color." Like Sophie, even I relate pink to something like cotton candy. That's why I feel most of us feel that pink is a very sweet color because so many things that are sweet, like candy, are pink. It's something that's intangible. Both of these things are intangible, like taste. Taste is something that's intangible, but we can sort of feel it when we look at the color, and that's a really special relationship. Um, it's sort of like a second of synesthesia almost. And it's not just taste, it's also something like any of the senses, taste, sound, like touch, all of these things can be recalled with just color. Sophie also says, "I can't help connecting the color black with the deafening noise of coal chucked into an oven at night. My father would wake up in the middle of the night to fill the stove, and the shower of coal nuggets would regularly wake us up from our dreams." So here Sophie's talking about how just looking at the color black can almost help her recall the sound of the coal from her childhood. So these are relationships that we make throughout our life that stay with us for a long time. She also says, "I'm trying to think of a green memory. It would be the lawn where my father would lie with his arms wide open and then fall asleep in the afternoon. Green, for me, is my father's warm sense of peace on a sunny afternoon." So, other than just these five senses, there's also the larger aspect of feeling or memories associated with color. And if you have any memories or stories that you'd like to share with us, please comment. And we're sort of collecting the comments. And even if you have questions, just put them in the comments and we'll sort of be answering and reading them out maybe at the end of the session so everybody can hear them. So please go ahead and do that if you feel like. And so, like we were saying, how color, senses, and feelings are all sort of interconnected. There's also the aspect of how some colors come with baggage. For example, I remember when I was small, I always loved the color blue. But I was always sort of told that blue is for boys and pink is for girls. And this is sort of something that's built over time, the gendering of colors. But again, it's because of associations that people make. And it's not that pink is meant for girls and blue is meant for boys, but rather these are sort of boxes that we put the colors into. So that's one interesting aspect of how colors come with baggage. Talking about my experience with color, like I said, I've always loved blue. And I wore blue. I remember going to college every day wearing blue, and even in office at Tara, I would wear blue to work every day, and it's something that people have always noticed. It was something I did without realizing, but now thinking back, I feel like maybe blue. I chose blue because it's sort of like a calming, soothing presence, and maybe I could associate it to my memories growing up because I grew up near the sea, and maybe there's something with that. Growing up with the sea, associating the color with the ocean, and sometimes when I look at blue, I can almost smell that salty sea breeze. So these are all things that I'm sure even if all of you think of, you can definitely make associations and remember your childhood or memories through color. It's sort of the story that you choose to tell with the colors you remember. The next thing we'll be talking about is color characters. This was a really fun part of the book that I hadn't thought of before. But imagine if there was a world in which only one color could exist, what kind of characters would populate that world? For example, if the world was red, what Sophie says is that she imagines red to be a dragon. She says red is a dragon with hot blood, which is warm and red, warming next to a fire. He can be affectionate, but he also relishes violence and bloodshed. He eats pomegranates, strawberries, and yes, tomatoes. So red to Sophie is a dragon, and I think a lot of us would also make this association because red itself is something that we consider to be ferocious and fierce and strong. But we also have the power to transform and change the meaning of red. For example, if we dab on a spot of red, we with say yellow, it can become a warm orange. Blue with red becomes sort of violet, and white can sweeten the dragon into a lovely pink. Then there's yellow. To Sophie, yellow is a bird of paradise, wearing a flowery scent. Her eyes are two gleaming lanterns, and she lives in a castle of straw with 1,000 rooms. She can strike precisely like a flash of lightning or glow with a mellow light as the seasons change. So yellow is actually really fascinating because even I chose to wear yellow today for the presentation because it's something I sort of associate with being bright and happy, and it makes me happy. So I wear yellow, especially if I'm having a bad day. I try and wear something that cheers me up. So a lot of the decisions that we make are like we don't realize, but they're made because of associations that we have with certain things, and it applies to colors as well. For example, yellow, if it's lemon yellow, it can be something strong, whereas like something like lightning could be a brighter yellow, which could be something strong and fast. Whereas yellow could also be something warm and soft and subtle if it's like a sort of more, if there's more white or if it's more subdued. So that's the thing about colors is that just by adding or subtracting things, it can change the meaning of color. Color is not something that's one dimensional. There's not only one yellow or one red. There's a million different shades and tones and tints that we may have not even seen or experienced so far. Also, if we think about color, it sort of permeates our language as well. Just like how you can assign a color to a character or a character to a color, sort of if you look at the English language itself, we say, oh, is she feeling blue today? Or she turned green with envy, or he turned green with envy. So these are sort of characters that we've assigned to colors, that green is associated with envy, or blue is associated with feeling sad. The next thing is wrong colors. So just like how we make associations with different colors, There are certain accepted associations, and there are some associations that are unfamiliar and maybe less accepted. For example, in school, I remember in art class in school, uh, maybe if I colored a river pink or a sky green or a moon purple, it was always considered wrong because it wasn't realistic in the sense that people expect to see. So this is a sort of an example of how we assign limiting roles to colors. We grew up, and as we grew up, we're influenced by what is realistic. But actually, if you think about it, in imagination itself and in an artist's mind, there are no wrong colors. Why can't a river be pink or a sky be green? What is limiting our imagination that way? It's only the way we look at and assign roles to colors. So Sophie explores this in the book as well. She says the pink wolf is still impressive, but he's lost his ferociousness, and I doubt whether he'd freeze the blood of anyone who meets him. So the wolf itself is something that we expect to fear or that we see as threatening. But what happens if a wolf is colored pink? It's something unfamiliar for sure, maybe even artificial or unexpected. But what it does is that it sort of makes the wolf less threatening in a sense, because as pink is often associated with softness and I don't know, maybe kindness, it sort of seems less scary to us just because of the change in color. This is another spread from the book that I is one of my favorites for sure. So this book was designed by Nia Tandapani while she was at Tara, and this spread is really interesting because it's sort of meant to be like two eyes on the page. So it sort of talks about how we look at wrong colors. So this one says, "Listen to that wagging tail. It sounds like an ice cream bell. The blue chihuahua looks like snow melting in the spring on the left side." So we have a blue chihuahua against a white background. So a blue chihuahua is not something that you would ever see, but it's definitely something that would be considered wrong. But again, something that can bring joy to a lot of people just because it looks different. On the right side, it says the red and white striped zebra. I'm wondering what kind of character he'd have. Any ideas? So we're so used to seeing the black and white zebra that when he's red and white, we sort of takes us back a bit. But even though this can be sort of a negative connotation for some people, as in like, oh, this is wrong, this is not how it's supposed to look, you can also use this as a sort of it's a sort of a tool as well. You know, it can be powerful because changing the color and making it into something wrong is a great way to catch attention as well. For example, okay, so say an accepted example of what is an accepted color to use in a setting is blue is something that's considered safe, soothing, and calm, and that's why a lot of airlines use blue in their interiors and on their planes because it's supposed to make you feel safe and like they're reliable. However, there's an airlines in India called SpiceJet that uses red as their main color, and this is something surprising because red is supposed to like connote danger, and it's not something reliable or something that makes you feel safe. However, maybe they use this color so that they stand out from the rest, and they definitely do that way. So it definitely can create an impact as well. Purposely assigning a culture a color that naturally doesn't fit is something that's really interesting to explore. Another thing that people also use this for marketing, like for example, we've heard of black hamburgers, black dosas, and charcoal ice cream. So these are things that catch people's attention because it's something that's not usual and something that's new and exciting. So that's the thing with wrong colors. It can be exciting and it can be new and really fun to explore. So coming to color and culture, the reason that some things are accepted as wrong or right is also because of the way that we have been brought up, or the surroundings that we've been brought up in definitely decides what we consider to be wrong or right colors. It's definitely informed by culture. For example, in certain traditions, wearing white at a wedding is custom. Like white wedding dress is definitely something that's accepted and people expect. However, if you look at white as a garment, in India, white is the color of mourning. So this is definitely something that's influenced by culture and how the same thing, the same color can mean different things in different cultures. So, other than feelings, emotions, and memories, we're also influenced by our surroundings, what we've experienced growing up, and that's something that defines and informs our tastes and our palettes and what we like. So now coming to these pictures, which is what the picture on the left side is basically a picture that was taken by one of our designers, Ragini, in Korea. And the picture on the right side was taken by her as well, but this one was taken in Chennai, in India. So what you can see is how another factor that comes into play, which is light. So the right side, which is in India, it's like a tropical region, and there's a lot of bright sunlight, so it sort of makes the colors brighter almost. So we grew up in a very bright surrounding with colors that are very bright and loud and joyous. And what happens in places with less light is that the kind of palette that you will see is also more subdued, maybe like a pastel palette, which is really different from what we experience here. So that kind of contrast is also very interesting to explore and learn about. Um, it also informs our dressing and architecture. For example, you can see that the people on the left in Korea are wearing more neutral colors, whereas on the right in India we tend to wear more bright colors. And this is also, if you think about it, how something is accepted and how something becomes traditional, because it's something that you experience over the years and that is always present around you. So this is also how something, uh, how you could say maybe how traditional colors come about. um, the next slide talks about again how light influences what we see as colors. So these are two seaside views. The left side is in India, and the right side is a sea view in Scotland. So in India, you see it sort of immediately stands out as a warmer palette and a brighter palette, whereas in Scotland, it's more, the colors are more subtle, and even the kind of blue of the water is really different because of the way that the environment is, because of the way the nature is, and how the sunlight affects the surroundings. So nature itself as well influences the kind of palette that we come to tend to like. But also, we must remember that color is something that is both cultural and at the same time also very individual, because it would sort of be generalizing to say that, oh, in India, people only like bright colors, or oh, in Korea, people only like subtle colors, because that is something that our culture informs us of. But there's also the individual aspect of it, that uh, that personal preference, and this is sort of molded by our experiences and what we've experienced, which is what we spoke about earlier, which is memories, childhood experiences. This is what sort of builds our personal taste. So, for example, these are two buildings in India. The left side is like a very minimal color palette, and it's very stark, and it's just white, and it's not loud or it doesn't stand out so much. But the building on the right is also in India, and especially in Chennai, you see a lot of buildings with lots of different colors, and that's something that can be attributed to both color and personal taste. Okay, so this is another slide that I find really interesting, because it talks about how we see and perceive color. For example, if I asked you to point out colors that stand out to you in these two pictures, the first things that would probably stand out to you are the blue and the yellow in both pictures, because these are primary colors that are immediately obvious. But but if you really look at the colors in the pictures, like not just look but really try and see the colors in the pictures, you see that there are a million tones and shades of colors. For example, the buildings on the right have a mixture of various different colors that may not initially immediately stand out to you, but if you think about it, all of these colors are a mixture of lots of different primary colors and secondary colors that sort of we don't see immediately, just because they're not the sort of colors that we are used to pointing out as red or blue or green. So if you really, like, after this session, if you really look around you, I'm sure you'll be able to see many more colors than you initially did. So now I'm going to pause the presentation for a second to talk about one of my favorite parts of the book. It's called Forest of Colors. So just switching over now. So, like we discussed, color is everywhere and all around us. And like we discussed again, it's probably not something that immediately stands out to us all the time. We often stop seeing color as it is and rather just see objects and nature as just things around us that we just don't stop and recognize as colors. This exercise is something that really stands out because it's sort of like going on a treasure hunt where you can collect an assortment of objects and sort them into colors yourself. And that's what the Forest of Color is. We sort of took this as an opportunity to talk to people from different parts of the world and see how they approach color. So we asked some of our friends who are illustrators, designers, photographers, and artists to send in pictures of a collection of objects around their homes in either a single color or in different colors. So, what we'll be talking about is, are there any differences between their images, between the objects they've chosen, and between the kind of colors that they've chosen? So, this is what the Forest of Colors looks like. Just going back to the presentation now. So this is a spread from the book itself. And as you can see, Sophie sort of collected different objects and put them together. And the thing that's uniting them is their color. So we asked our artist friends to send us pictures, and this is what they sent in. So the first image that we have is from Anais, who's an embroidery artist from France. She designed this book for us called A Stitch Out of Time, and it's not yet released, but it'll be coming soon. So this is the picture she sent. She chose to choose objects of the color yellow, and I think it's really interesting to see how the book that she worked on and her interest, which is she's really interested in botanical elements and plants and flowers, and that's what she chose to put in her forest of colors as well. As she's an embroidery artist, you can also see that she's got little embroidery threads and embroidery items in her collection as well. So I think that the Forest of Colors also speaks a lot about who the person is, what they're interested in, and what kind of a character they have. And as you can see in this picture, there's not just one shade of yellow. Like we said earlier, a color is not just one dimensional. So you can see various shades of yellow in this forest of colors of Anais. Going to the next image that we have, this one's from Jonathan Yamakami, who is a graphic designer. So Jonathan is actually a graphic designer who hails from Sao Paulo in Brazil, but right now he's based in USA. So it's also really interesting to see how how his different sort of maybe how growing up in different places has sort of affected or influenced the kind of objects he's chosen, or maybe how his interest has influenced the objects he's chosen. The book he designed for us was I Saw a Peacock with a Fiery Tail. It's one of the books he designed with Tara. And the color he chose to work with was magenta. And for example, if you look at the shell, it has little strips of magenta, but when it's paired with the strips of white, it sort of seems lighter than it would have if it was just magenta. So it's also interesting to see how the color sort of interacts with other colors to look different. Um, the next image is of Mayur, who is a photographer who worked with us on a book called Still Bombay. This is one of our forthcoming titles that will be released soon as well. So the book itself is about how Mayur went out and photographed Bombay at a time when it's most still, which is in the morning. And so it's interesting to see how this passion of his of photography has sort of influenced the kind of objects he's chosen to put in his forest of colors, which is shoes, a cap, and sunglasses, which maybe he uses quite often. And he's chosen to work with the color blue. And I think the kind of arrangement that he's chosen as well for the objects, which is very sort of organized and circular. Once you see the book itself, sort of it sort of makes a lot of sense because you can sort of relate the kind of person he is with the kind of book he's created, as well as with the kind of forest of colors he's created. Um, and that's a really interesting correlation to see. Um, the next one we have is from Nia Tandapani, who designed the color book. She's the designer of the color book, and she's a graphic designer who has lived in both the United Kingdom and in India. She's currently based in Bangalore, and she chose to work with yellow. So as you can see, this yellow forest of colors is very different from Anice's. We've seen earlier Anice's forest of colors, which is this. So as you can see, the shades of yellow itself are extremely different from the sort of palette that Anais had to what Mia has here. Um, what's interesting about this one is that the sort of materials and textures that are here are so varying and different that you can really see that the color interacts with the kind of material it's present on. For example, the coffee packet is the yellow looks very different on the coffee packet just because of the kind of texture that the plastic has, which is very shiny and reflective. So you sort of perceive that yellow very differently from the kind of yellow which is there on the mango, which is automatically seems more subdued and less sort of in your face just because of the kind of texture of the material that it's present on. Um, so this one was Mia's palette. The next one we have is Koki Oguma, who's an illustrator based in Japan. He worked with us on the Barber's Dilemma, which is a really sort of fun, joyous, quirky book for kids, and it has really sort of whimsical, really nice illustrations, and the kind of illustrations in the book are sort of definitely reflected in his forest of colors. As you can see, the spoon sort of branches out into this bird at the bottom. And I'm sure that when we saw this image, all of us immediately knew that Koki was the one who had sent it in. And he's chosen to work with the color blue. And it's sort of very, again, here you can see that the colors are of different shades and different tones, and they're all still blue. The next one we have is Marcos. So Marcos worked with us on God of Money. You can see the book on the right-hand side bottom of the slide. And what he chose to work with was red. So he collected a red forest of colors. And red itself is a color that's very supposed to be very strong and very loud. And it's interesting that most of the objects here as well are sort of very strong objects, like objects that you would relate with the word strong, like tools and drawing tools and sort of the speaker, they're very solid objects. So it's interesting to see that maybe sometimes we don't realize that the colors we choose to give objects as well sort of have meanings behind them that we don't realize, and that we sort of, without realizing, assign colors to objects based on our experiences and memories with the colors. If you can see that the red in this forest of colors and the objects here are in stark comparison to Anice's forest of colors, which was yellow and had flowers. So the yellow forest of colors was more delicate, whereas the red forest of colors seems more strong and loud. Um, the next one we have is Matthew Frame, who is an illustrator from the United Kingdom. He worked with us on Walking is the Way of Knowing. And it's what his forest of colors, that the reason that it seems very different from the others is that it seems very organic. And it's interesting that the color he chose for his forest of colors was green. So the color itself sort of reflects the kind of arrangement that he's chosen, which is he has plants, he has all these older boxes, he has a lemon that's been cut in two over there. And these are sort of lots of natural elements that have been arranged very organically. And just like the book itself, which is about a forest, the forest of colors also is very organic. Um, so the next one we have is Now. So Now is actually an architect who worked with us on a book called Travels Through South Indian Kitchens. So now you can see that her forest of colors is very not organic, sorry. In contrast from Matthew's organic forest of colors, it's very structured, it's very precise, and it's been arranged in a very structured, angular manner. So it sort of maybe reflects her profession as an architect. And the color she's chosen to work with is red. Just like her illustrations, Her forest of colors as well is very organized and precise because her illustrations also are very detailed, organized, and precise. So sort of in these forest of colors, you can see how the character of the person itself is reflected not only in the colors they've chosen, but also in the arrangement and layout of their forest of colors. So now that you've seen all of these, I think it would be really fun to make your own forest of colors, and we would love to see your forest of colors. So if you do this exercise, and I'm very sure you will have fun doing it as well. You can send it in to us at our Instagram, which is at Tara Books, or at Facebook, which also we're Tara Books on Facebook, and you can send it in to us at either of these platforms, and we'd love to see your forest of colors and share your forest of colors with our audience. Um, so I'm sure now, I mean, I'm hoping that now, when you look around, you can see your environment and what surrounds you maybe a little differently, maybe see more colors than you did earlier. And if you can collect your different objects around you and put them together, we'd love to see them. But before you do this, I'm going to quickly come back and read some comments or questions if you've sent in any. I'm just going to check if any questions or comments have come in. Um, just a second. Okay, so we have a few comments over here. So Nandita Murlidharan says, red always reminded me of emotion, passion. There's no particular memory associated with it, just an emotion right from my childhood. That's really beautiful. Aarti Nara says, my favorite color is blue. Jasmine K says, really relates the blue thing. That's something I found myself doing too. Manisha Warkadi, I hope I pronounced your name right, says, yellow reminds me of charm. So thanks for sending these comments and what you relate with color in. And we'd also love to see a forest of colors. Um, Also, just to quickly wrap up the session, so this is the book, the color book, and we actually have a 30% discount on our website right now for this book. So if you go to our website, which is www.tarabooks.com, you can get this book at a 30% off for a limited period of time. And we also have a 20% sale going on right now throughout our website. So if you'd like to check out any of our other books that you've seen here as well, you can go ahead and do that. And the next session that is going to happen, which is going to be next month, is going to be on this book called Knock Knock, which is a very cute and fun children's book. So we hope that you like this session and that you will tune in next month as well. Hope that the session can see you help you see color differently, and we'd love to hear from you. And also, thank you so much to Inko Centre for making this possible and collaborating with us on this. We look forward to the next session and seeing you there. Thank you so much. This was Sanjana, and see you next time.